Primetime local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime Local News. There are 7 new cases of COVID-19 in Saskatchewan, bringing the total to 1,814 cases. 5 new cases are located in Saskatoon, 1 in Regina, and 1 in the southeast zone. 145 cases are considered active, including 2 in the region that includes Lloydminster and North Battleford. 1,645 people have recovered. Now for this week's retrospect, here's Blake Nath.
This week in retrospect. Back in 1995, a local RCMP officer joins a national program to teach new police officers in Haiti.
In a little over 2 weeks, Sergeant Rick Comer will join other police officers from across Canada on their way to Haiti.
Yeah, I just found out last Friday, as a matter of fact, and this is the last contingent to go over. So when they asked me to go, I said I'd be willing and gladly to go.
When this bulletin was sent out by Ottawa, requesting for volunteers to go to Haiti, Comer saw it as an opportunity to gain valuable experience. He will be working alongside 4 other officers from Saskatchewan, as well as other Canadians and American forces, to set up a training program at the Haitian Police Academy.
My duties, as I understand it, will be to teach recruits. My duties will be at the academy in Port-au-Prince, and my understanding is that there's 375 people to each troop, and there's five of us instructors in each troop.
And in 2000, Alberta Premier Ralph Klein visits the town of Murnum to hear the local concerns.
About 60 Midwest residents had their morning coffee with Premier Ralph Klein today. Derwent and Murnum townspeople shared the area's most sensitive issues with the Premier.
I would sure like to see, while they're giving out the goodies, maybe a little bit of infrastructure money for, one-time funding, because it has been neglected.
Premier Klein says his rural Alberta tour is his chance to visit as many small towns as possible facing economic problems.
Murnum's, better off, but Derwent, it's having its problems.
High energy costs are common issues for the residents of Murnum and Derwent. Premier Klein says there is some relief, though. This tour was his opportunity to inform Albertans about the energy rebate program.
And I'm able to say that, at least we're one jurisdiction that's been able to do something, through the $300 rebate, through the $20 reduction.
And that's all for this week in retrospect.
Retrospect this week is brought to you by Webb's Ford. Worth your while to drive the extra mile. Webb's Ford in Vermilion.
Now our Connor and Chan will take a look at your weather forecast.
Thanks very much, Jasmine. Taking a look at temperatures right now, a little bit cloudier with a little bit of sun that we've seen over the course of the day today. We did have that expectancy of having a high of between the 18 to 20 degree mark. Right now we're sitting at 21 right now with some cloud coverage at the Lloydminster Airport with some winds though coming in from the south just over 20 kilometers an hour. We did of course have a bit of a smokier weekend on Saturday. Those wildfire smoke kind of came into that area here, giving us that orange glaze out there. And of course some showers yesterday, but we won't be seeing any showers anytime soon down into the week. But as we take a look at some other temperatures in the area, 22 for Vermilion with 20 degrees in Bonnyville and St. Paul, 18 in Vegreville and Edmonton. We also see 21 degrees in Provost, Macklin, and Maidstone as well, and 20 degrees for North Battleford and St. Walburg as well. So here's a look at the satellite radar map right now. Some cloud coverage is expected over the next little bit here, which will make its way into the Lloydminster areas as well as those southern areas like Provost and Macklin as well. But in terms of precipitation. That's more so further out in the west in those Edmonton areas. But as we take a look at school day forecast, as we look at 8 a.m. for tomorrow, we'll see 8 degrees the daytime high, so a little bit warmer than what we saw over the last several days there, but 11 at recess, 13 degrees around that lunchtime, that noon hour, and then by the time school's out, about 16 degrees with some sun and clouds. So here's a look at overnight North Battleford, 8 degrees with a little bit of clear skies and some cloud coverage, and 18 degrees tomorrow with mostly cloud coverage for the North Battleford. 7 degrees overnight with some cloud coverage for Cold Lake, and clear skies tomorrow with that high of 16 degrees for Cold Lake. And for us here in Lloydminster, same results in terms of cloud coverage as Cold Lake, but we'll have a little bit more cloudier day with that high of 16 degrees for us tomorrow. So here's what we could see over the next several days here. 19 on Wednesday, and then as we get into Thursday, we'll still have that 19-degree daytime high, but a little bit warmer in the morning as well with that low of 10 degrees. So we're going to see those temperatures kind of be consistent for the next couple of days, kind of just shy of that 20-degree mark, but still over the 15-degree mark as we are still kind of getting into the fall season there. But that's a look at your weather forecast for now. We'll have more primetime local news after the break.
Week 2 of the NFL wraps up tonight with the New Orleans Saints versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Evan Kenny and Eric Bay break down the exciting week, the wacky plays, and the injury-plagued teams.
Well, it was a wild weekend this past weekend, especially when it comes to the NFL. 8 games this week were within 1 score or less. Joining me today to break it down is Eric Bay. Eric, thanks for joining me.
For sure, yeah, definitely some pretty crazy games and some very high-scoring games as well this weekend.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, a lot of games that were just right there, 1 score apart. And I think the first one that is on everybody's minds is the Atlanta Falcons versus the Dallas Cowboys. A very, very crazy game. But Eric, let's just start from the beginning. Atlanta had a 20-0 lead. What happened?
Well, it's the dreaded early lead. I think one of my dad's favorite sayings anyways is the earlier you get down, the longer you have to come back. And that's really what happened throughout this game. And it's been really the story of the Falcons all season. Even when you look at last week, they lost another high-scoring game to the Seattle Seahawks. And their defense really hasn't been able to get off the field. The only difference was in this game, they were able to do that early and often in the first quarter with those 3 turnovers. But after that, there was really just no stopping the Cowboys' offense. And that was really the big issue. And especially the big plays is the main concern. When you are trying to hold on to a lead, you don't mind giving up some points as long as they're long drives that eat up the clock for the other team. But a lot of, 30, 40-yard strikes downfield for Dak Prescott to his receivers. And that's really what started to kill the Falcons in that game.
Now, Matt Ryan threw for 273 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Normally, that's an amazing stat line that gets your team the win. Unfortunately, it just wasn't enough this time. As we go through the game, Eric, was there maybe one thing or 2 things that you could see the Falcons really start dropping the ball on?
I think, again, it's just their defense. As you mentioned, their offense is not the problem and has not been the problem for the last, I would say, decade. And that was the big thing when Dan Quinn came over from Seattle. He's a defensive guy, and that was really what he was supposed to do, was take this defense, kind of overhaul it in that Seattle Seahawks mode from the Legion of Boom days and be able to stop these players. But I think really the big thing that ended up killing the Falcons late was the call on the Michael Gallup reception down the field late that ended up being ruled a catch. You can say that one's pretty controversial with the elbow, seeing what landed out first, but that was really what hurt because, again, that's another 20 to 30-yard play that really shortened the field and allowed them to get that touchdown quick and still give them, 2-3 minutes after the onside kick to work with before they did kick the game-winning field goal.
Now, let's talk about this onside kick. Not what we normally see in the NFL. I believe they're calling it a watermelon kick or something along those lines, where the ball was just placed on the ground, not on a tee. I mean, Eric, as you were watching this, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, it was a little bit of, onside kicks are kind of funky. Everybody has their own sort of style. We remember the one from the Pittsburgh Steelers where the guy tried to kick it behind his other leg and ended up going, half a yard. So some of them work, some of them don't. I wasn't really sure what was going to happen. And then just watching that kick, obviously the first 5 yards, it started to curl towards the sideline. So it didn't even look like the ball was going to make it the 10 yards. So I think there, and now everybody's kind of blaming the Falcons, why didn't you pick up the ball? I think that's really why, because that ball does have to go 10 yards. And the fact that it is not a perfect sphere, if this was a soccer ball or something, it's a very easy grab. But the way that football bounces, all you need to do is touch it with that finger at the 5-yard mark, and a Cowboy could get it easy. So I think really it was a lose-lose situation all the way around for the Falcons. I think the only thing you can complain about with their coverage is Hayden Hurst was on the outside of that defender for the Cowboys that did pick up the ball. He's got to be in there and, kind of being a basketball player, box him out so that they do have, a better chance to get it when it does reach that 10 yards. But yeah, perfect kick, and maybe something we're going to see here from other kickers around the league in the future.
Now, that led to the game-winning field goal where Dallas ended up winning by just 1 point. Now to another close game, Seattle versus the Patriots. A great matchup, has been for years. Tom Brady was not in this time. It was Cam Newton, but he did do a great job putting up a great stat line, including rushing touchdowns. What did you see from this game, Eric?
Yeah, I think when you are talking Cam Newton, he has been doing a pretty good job here so far in the season. And I think that's partially the brilliance of Bill Belichick. It's these coaches that are willing to adapt their schemes and systems to fit the players they have. And I think especially at the quarterback position, that's what you really need to do. Some of these coaches get stuck in their ways and don't, play to guys' strengths. We've seen that in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson, how he's been able to light up the league. And that's what they're starting to do in New England. And the big thing for Cam Newton as well is he's healthy. He's been hurt a lot these last few years. So that's pretty important. But it will be interesting to see how they continue to use both his size and his running ability throughout the rest of the season.
You mentioned Cam Newton being healthy. Unfortunately, health is one thing that is plaguing the NFL with a ton of injuries happening this past week. The list just goes on and on for All-Stars. Eric, which injury do you think affects their team the most?
I think it's always the quarterback. Obviously, that's the most important position on the field. So I think Jimmy Garoppolo, depending how he does come back from the high ankle sprain, obviously it's kind of, different severities for that injury, and it's how players can play through the pain. So it'll be interesting to see when he comes back. But I think for some of those longer term injuries, I would say Saquon Barkley, but obviously the Giants aren't expected to do much this year, and they are currently 0-2. So I think maybe Nick Bosa, you look at the way the 49ers did play last year as well, really built on that defense. So losing Bosa for the entire season is really going to hurt, especially after his great rookie year last year.
I got to agree with you on the Bosa pick as well. The 49ers suffered injuries not only to Bosa and Garoppolo, but as well Raheem Mostert and Solomon Thomas. So that's a tough week for the 49ers. Eric, it's always a pleasure getting to sit down and chat with you.
For sure. Thank you.
Now our Connor channel, take a look at your weather forecast.
Thanks very much, Jasmine. Taking a look at temperatures right now, still sitting at that 21-degree mark right now, but as we move further out west here, 18 in Edmonton with 13 degrees for Edson, Whitecourt, and in Jasper. We also see 14 in Rocky Mountain House, 16 right now also in Red Deer. Over in the Saskatchewan areas right now, 22 for Saskatoon, while 21 degrees both in Meadow Lake and in Prince Albert, as well as we see 21 degrees right now in Cold Lake as well. Up north, as we take a look there, 20 degrees for La Loche and Buffalo Narrows, with La Ronge sitting at 21 degrees, 19 right now for Flin Flon, with 13 out in Stony Rapids and 11 in Uranium City, while South End sits at 19 degrees right now. As we move over into northern Alberta areas, a little bit cooler in areas like Fort Chipeway and High Levels, sitting just below the 10-degree mark as they sit at 9 degrees currently, with Fort McMurray at 15, 14 for also Peace River, and in Slate Lake we also see 15 degrees out in Grand Prairie right now with that high there. As we look over in the southern areas right now, 23 for both Medicine Hat and in Lethbridge, 22 for Coronation, and then 20 degrees in Calgary, while 18 degrees we see in Banff right now. And then we go over to Saskatchewan, 24 for Moose Jaw with 22 degrees in Swift Current, 21 for Kindersley, and then we see 23 degrees for Regina, 25 for Estevan, and then 22 degrees out in Yorkton. Now as we look at temperatures across the country right now, Regina, I did mention 20 23 degrees. They have some sunshine right now and some clear skies. A little bit cloudier as we move further out east in Winnipeg with 22, Quebec City at 14 with a little bit of sun and cloud coverage there. 18 in Toronto right now as we move over into St. John's. It's already starting to get dark out in the Maritimes there with that high of 10 degrees. 14 in Halifax with some cloud coverage there as we move over into west right now. 18 degrees in Edmonton, as I mentioned earlier, they're seeing some cloud coverage right now. Could see some possible showers in the coming hours or so. 20 degrees in Vancouver right now. Yellowknife up north sitting at 11 degrees and Whitehorse sitting at 12 degrees. Now this is what we could see tomorrow. We'll see a little bit of a cooler day as we drop down a couple degrees from what we are sitting at right now. 16 degrees for us is the daytime high for us here tomorrow, as well as in Marwayne, Vermilion, St. Paul, Bonnyville, and Cold Lake as well. As we move over into Wainwright, Vegreville areas, they'll be sitting at 17 degrees tomorrow, along with Edmonton. Provost also sitting at 16 degrees tomorrow. Macklin at 18 with North Battleford tomorrow. And then we also see 17 degrees up in the northern Saskatchewan areas of Meadow Lake and in Green Lake. So here's a look at what we could see over the next 7 days. We are going to have 19 degrees tomorrow on Wednesday and Thursday. And then Friday we'll have a high of 17 degrees. So we'll see a little bit of cloud coverage kind of increasing and being consistent over the next 7 days or so. 16 on both Saturday and on Sundays. We could see a little bit more sun on Sunday than Saturday, and then 18 degrees on Monday with that cloud coverage kind of continuing on and hanging on with us throughout like it was the rest of the week there, because we usually average around that 15 degree mark for this time of year and averaging around 3 degrees as our low, which we are a little bit above averages. Of course, we start to see between 5 and 10 degree ranges over the next 7 days for our daytime low. But that's a look at your weather forecast for now. We'll have more primetime local news coming up after the break.
So I'm joined today on Primetime Local News with Aaron Norris, and he's from Ribstone Creek Brewery. Thanks for taking some time to talk with me today, Aaron.
No problem. Happy to be here.
So first of all, I'm just going to get you to talk a little bit about Ribstone Creek, just how you guys started and where you're located, stuff like that.
Yeah, so we're a small microbrewery based out in Edgerton, Alberta. So from Lloydminster, it's just probably about 45 minutes south from you guys. So it's a little town, 400 people out in the middle of the prairies there. We've been brewing for about, we're coming up to 10 years actually, brewing beer out in that area. So we've kind of came from humble beginnings and we've been growing more and more ever since. But we've got our tap room brewery out there. We try and utilize all locally sourced ingredients as much as possible. And we're there to kind of give the local community some a local beer to drink.
So the reason I wanted to talk with you today is the 18th Annual Canadian Brewing Awards happened recently, and you guys actually walked away with 2 awards. Can you just talk a little bit about what that process was like?
Yeah, so it was actually an award ceremony that was supposed to happen in Victoria this year, but that actually got delayed with the whole pandemic and everything. So it got moved to a virtual award show. So we submitted a bunch of our products in, and we're super excited to win a gold medal in the Sessions Ale category for our Abbey Lane English Mild, as well as a silver medal for our Old Man Winter Porter in the Porters category. So again, being a small brewery in a town of 400 people in East Central Alberta, to win a national award like from the Canadian Brewing Awards means a lot to us, recognized on that national level, and bringing home a gold medal and a silver medal to Edgerton.
That was something else I just wanted to talk about, because I feel like especially recently there's been a lot of different microbreweries popping up all across Canada. I think it's kind of like a big trend that's happening. So what does it mean to be able to go to an award like that with breweries across the country and walk away with those awards? What does it feel like?
Well, it's almost validating. We work all year round, working hard to make these beers as great as we can. And I mean, we're all a little bit biased. We all drink them. We all love them. But to actually kind of get that recognition on that national level, like, yeah, your beer stands up among the best in all of Canada. It feels good. It feels good to take home those awards and being able to put those awards on the trophy case.
So when it comes to breweries in Alberta, what's the scene like right now?
It's super busy. Like when we started up 10 years ago, I think we were one of like 12 breweries that were either operating at the time or starting to open up, and it's well over 100 now. So it's really kind of been growing steadily ever since. Very competitive market for sure. But we're quite happy with being out in Edgerton. We're able to kind of carve out a little bit of that local pie and serve the East Central Alberta area there. Home brewery for everyone in the area, really. But yeah, super competitive, very dynamic, always changing, always growing market. And we're super happy to be part of it.
Can you just talk a little bit about, for people who maybe want to come and check you out, stuff like that, how does that work with hours and just kind of how you guys operate?
Yeah, so obviously we're brewing beer all year round, but our taproom hours are generally open just for Fridays and Saturdays. We're just wrapping up our summer hours, but they're currently open on Fridays from 2 to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 11 to 6 p.m. So you can swing by anytime during that time, have a pint, try some flights, fill up a growler, take some beer home, and check out the spot. It's very welcoming, lots of seats, and we encourage everyone to swing by and check out what's brewing out in Edgerton.
And so for the 2 awards that you guys won, were you up against a lot of stiff competition?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, it's breweries from all across Alberta, or all across Canada that can put their beer in there, and some amazing breweries that have been around a lot longer than we have, and some very dynamic newer breweries that are a little bit newer than us. So a lot of great beer being brewed in Alberta right now, let alone Canada. So yeah, it's very stiff competition, but we're happy to bring home the awards we did.
And just before we go, is there anything else you want to add?
Well, I just want to, again, in terms of the awards, we want to thank the local community. Without them supporting us, we're not here today and being able to submit our beers for these awards. So definitely want to thank everyone out in the area that supports us, and we really appreciate everyone that stops by the brewery, whether it's for a quick say hi, grab a keg, or try a flight. So thanks everyone.
Well, thanks so much. I'm talking with Aaron Norris from our Ribstone Creek Brewery. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to talk with me.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
I'm speaking with William Yap, former president of Lakeland's LGBTQ2S+ student support group. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. So I want to talk about the mental health toolkit that was created by Mount Royal University. Can you kind of explain what's involved in that?
So the toolkit in and of itself shows a lot of successes, all of the different initiatives that other schools have already done to help create a happy and healthy environment for students to be in, not just physically, but especially mentally. So the toolkit is a guide almost, and it's a nice way for other post-secondary institutions to look through and go, okay, well, we missed this step, let's maybe do this, let's add this. It's exactly a toolkit of other events or other policies that maybe you might have missed or maybe didn't really think about, that can be added to your chest.
And what kind of initiatives has the support group done that were showcased to other schools?
Actually, quite a few of them were already covered in the media, which I'm really, really happy about, because we were able to talk about the prom that you never had, which was a second chance, not just for LGBTQ individuals to bring those who they really wanted to bring to prom, but it's also for those who may have not really enjoyed their prom in the first place. And so they wanted to just redo it. So we did that, which was really nice and inclusive, because not only did we have students within the school who showed up to it, but we even had community members as well to show support for the event. So we had that. We had our coming out nights, which was really popular because they were a chance for the audience to be put in the shoes of an LGBTQ individual, explaining all the events that led up to their coming out and the challenges they faced ever since. We had about 60 people in the Lloydminster campus the first time we did it, and over 100 people in Vermilion campus when we did it the second time. And then just little little pride events during the school years as well has shown really a lot of support from the school and the surrounding community.
And why do you believe this initiative is important for the LGBTQ2S+ community, especially in post-secondaries?
This is very important. I always say this in all of our safe space trainings when we try and drive the coming out stories home to all of the people that are in the training. We have students who already have to deal with finals, homework, exams. We have people who are traversing through a glimpse of a social life when you have time in post-secondary. They shouldn't have to deal with a crisis of coming out and possibly losing a few family members or even close friends alone. They should have a network or somewhere that they can go to when things get tough before hitting crisis mode.
And how exactly was the support group's reaction when finding out that your ideas could help students in other schools across the province?
Oh my goodness. Beyond honored, really the first thing we thought of, because I mean, I guess that's true of any other club and or support group that starts in a post-secondary. We start with our mission as to how we can help our school, how we can serve our student body. We don't really think that what we're doing is going to affect, let's not even go that far. Let's say the U of A, that's just 2 hours away, right? This is something that we thought, okay, this is what works for us and this is just what we're going to be working on. But to find out that now our events and our initiatives are going to be looked at and reviewed by every post-secondary institution in Canada is amazing.
And can you give a little history on how these initiatives started at Lakeland and how long the process was to put them in action?
Oh my goodness. I think the very first thing would just be when I first came back to Lakeland and I didn't feel like there was enough representation or visibility, really, to be honest, for LGBTQ individuals. And so me needing both an outlet for that and also just a little bit of attention, I figured the best way to get the visibility when there isn't one is to be the spectacle myself. That's when I first started showing up to school in drag or in like light makeup or in really crazy outfits, because I thought to myself, if there is anyone else in campus that does identify under this rainbow and they're just too scared or not sure if there's anyone else like them, if I became the beacon myself, it would help to kind of bring them out and to kind of help them feel safe and comfortable. That was really just the start of getting noticed and having the campus be like, oh, so we actually do have people who need this on campus. How can we streamline this and have the message kind of brought forward? So that's when I worked directly with the Students' Commons, with the counselors, and planned our first Pride Week, which is when the first coming out stories happen, and a resounding success of a student barbecue, because students and free food. Student barbecue, and we had over 200 students show up to it. I think we ran out of food. I'm 100% sure we ran out of food.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, William, and I'm really happy to know that the initiatives that you guys have taken is helping other students and other schools across the province.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us on this edition of Primetime Local News. Have a great night.